What is going on? What is going on? Everybody must be Tuesday night. Tuesday night, the Daily Move podcast. Another episode coming to you live from the studios of, well, it's starting to look more and more like a studio every week, Coach Scanlon. What do you got to say, man? Welcome to another episode of the Daily Move podcast. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in all week. It's been absolutely awesome. Over 250,000 hits over the past 28 days, Coach. And if we're not rolling, man, I don't know what we are, but I think we might be on to something here. As always, I'm Andrew Daley, Coach Daley, joined by my main man, Coach Move Scanlon. Coach Scanlon, how's your week been going, man?
Pretty good, Coach. I'm excited about it. I know there's a lot going on in our backyard. Phones are blowing up, as people can imagine. And I got a lot to talk about with you this week. It's draft week, so just excited to be talking some ball.
We are going to be touching on some draft stuff. Again, I'm messing with my lights here. If you can see it, and dim this a little bit. I don't need the brightness, but hey, draft week. We're going to talk about some local products. Again, we dropped our schedule. We finally finalized our schedule, Coach, as you could say, and we put it out there on social media. We're recording tonight. We're going to do our live show on Tuesday nights. The recording from this show is going to drop on Wednesdays like it always has. Thursdays is going to be our no huddle show, which is a little bit more quick hitting, just coaching topics, whatever we really want to talk about. Fridays is going to be our South Jersey spotlight shows, and then we're going to be off for the weekend. And then Mondays will be our Coach's Corner episodes. Great episode last week yesterday that dropped with Coach Emil, dude. Like, that was absolutely awesome. I wasn't sure what to expect, honestly. I knew Coach Emil is a wealth of knowledge, but like that, I think it exceeded my expectations. What about you with that interview with Coach, man?
Yeah, man, it's really cool to get Coach on. I do know how much he really loves South Jersey football and kind of being an ambassador of all programs. So what a perfect person to have on to kind of kick off all things we want to do on that Coach's Corner. And I knew he would take
Thanks
it.
For checking in.
Yeah,
no, he did, and he dude, it was awesome. Like I said, I put it out there. I said there was really something for everybody in that episode. Like, whether you were a player, whether you were a coach, whether you were an administrator, whether you were a parent, there was something for everybody to take out of that episode, Coach. And we're so lucky to have him on. I'm going to drop the news right now. Next Monday, joining us will be, we talked about him a couple weeks ago here, South Jersey legend. Now he's a passing game coordinator at Westchester University. Coach Mike Isgro, Absegami legend, will be joining us live next Monday. So really excited about that, and really excited about the direction of the program in general. Like I said, 280 something thousand hits we've had this month, which is absolutely awesome. But we got a loaded show. You mentioned it, Coach. Like, where do we friggin' start? There's so much going on, and it's not even just like national news. It's like, it's South Jersey news, but man, where do we even start? And we're just going to roll with our regularly scheduled program like we always do. But holy crap, we got to get into our look good, feel good, play good segment, because we just got too much. We got too much to cover here tonight. I think I messed up. There we go. That's better. We're going to roll right into our look good, feel good, play good segment. And you got this matte black looking. Is that an Axe? Is that a Rydell helm? I don't know what that is, but talk to us about what you're showing up there on the screen, Coach.
Yeah, so what we're checking out, I know you and I have talked about this off air. We've talked about it a little bit on the show, but football in general, as much as the NFL makes, it amazes me how they kind of fumble certain things. But one thing they're finally starting to figure out is the more variations and alternate uniforms that they make is the more that they can sell, right? Yeah. So this past week we had a couple,
right?
Yeah. This past week we had a couple NFL teams release their new variations of their uniforms coming into the season. I couldn't help but laugh because at first Washington releases theirs, and I still don't know what the difference is. The Rams reconfigured some things, and I'm not sure their changes. This alternate black helmet. You have the black heads-on Ravens decal. It's got the blood red eyes. It's really kind of an intimidating look, and I just thought it looks awesome. They nailed this one. I love the variation for it. I love the idea of multiple helmets, and great job by the Ravens. I think it fits that city and that culture of their organization really well.
Yeah, I thought the Ravens came out with a couple really sharp-looking uniform drops this week. Like you said, though, Washington they're just so plain to me and so bland. But the Ravens came out and they're not too far apart. They're less than like an hour away from each other. So, like you mentioned, it's not a coincidence that those jerseys were released at the same time. I don't think. We're moving on. One of my favorite, probably my favorite NBA player of all time, man, Kobe. RIP. Talk to us a little bit what we're looking at here. I'm looking at Kobe wearing a number 5 Donovan McNabb jersey, but a pretty nice looking set of cleats next to him too. Talk to us about what we got going on.
Yeah, really cool here. Kobe Bryant, actually a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan during his life. One of the coolest things, Coach, I'm not sure if you've gotten a chance yet, but the Philadelphia Eagles used to be really good at inviting high school coaches to come check out their facility. And I used to get the chance to go about 2 times in an off season. And right after they won their first Super Bowl, they had a wall that just had a mural of they called it the spoke to the team when they were out in LA, and then they went on to win their first Super Bowl. Diehard Eagles fan, like we said, so I love to see that. Kobe actually has, like, if you look at the top 20 NBA sneakers worn by players this year, different variation and color patterns of Kobe's sneakers are like 16 of those top 20s. So It doesn't surprise me at all that Nike is starting to move this into the cleat variation and get into the football game as well. And I thought that this one on the right, kind of the cream and the white, just looked the best out of that individual lineup of 4 cleats as well. Coach, I saw this about an hour before we went on. I had to update my pick. And
I was going to say, I didn't see this in the pre-show notes there. So I logged on and saw them. I'm like, oh, we got a new late edition. Those are sharp, though. Some of the stuff you've been putting on, I'm like, man, I probably wouldn't wear that, but I could see myself wearing something like that. And like you said, if it's ever sponsored by, or, if Kobe's got his stamp of approval on it, I'm all for that. So we're moving on here. This is up to my pick. This is a high school called Lower Richland out in Hopkins, South Carolina. And this is from Phenom Elite Company. They posted this on their Instagram. They do great work with uniforms and stuff like that. But man, these jerseys are really sharp. You got the dark slate gray look, and then you got the gold. Chrome, I guess you could say. What I guess that is, Coach. I don't know, man. I'm not up to terms with the lingo, but you got like the gold chrome numbers that are almost like 3-dimensional coming out, and it says the creek across the top, and then it's got some other special things built into the jersey that are unique to the school. I don't know this school from any other school in the country, but I just came across this and thought it was pretty sharp looking. I really like the color combinations there. So what do you think about those jerseys? Pretty sharp, right? What do we got?
We're good, Coach. You're up.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is one thing I want to touch on here. We're in the heart of the NHL playoffs here, and we're Philly guys, or we're Philly suburb guys, and I'm a diehard Flyers fan, and look good, feel good, play good. If you haven't been following the hockey playoffs, you wouldn't know that the Philadelphia Flyers got a 2-0 lead on these lowly Pittsburgh Penguins, and it's got to be because of these damn jerseys that they're wearing. When did the Pittsburgh Penguins get away from the classic black jersey look? I hope they don't go back to it for the rest of the series, because if I'm getting dressed and I'm playing on the Penguins, I'm feeling myself in these black jerseys, and I'm going to play better. If I get dressed in these yellow neon street signs, I'm like, what the hell are we doing? We look like a bunch of clowns, and they play like crap. So I hope they keep wearing the yellow jerseys the rest of the series, because they look awful. But these black jerseys on the right, man, I'm all for them.
Yeah, I do too, Coach. I hope they wear them for 2 more games, and then they can go golfing all summer.
Exactly.
One of the things that's cool though with Pittsburgh, I do like that all 3 of their sport franchises wear the same colors. I do like that idea.
Yeah, no, I was actually telling my wife about that the other day, because she was talking. She was like, "Oh, the Steelers are the same color." I said, "Yeah, it's like a trivia question. They're one of, if not the only franchise or the only city that all all major sports teams. I think it's a trivia question. There might be one other city, but all major sports teams are the same color. I said you could wear a Steelers jersey to a Penguins game and nobody would know the difference. So
Yeah.
keep wearing your yellow, Pittsburgh, for at least 2 more games so our Flyers can sweep you, and then we'll go from there. But we're moving on. As always, the Look Good, Feel Good, Play Good segment brought to us by Twinning Tees, celebrating life's little moments, one tee at a time. They do awesome stuff. Make sure you check them out on Instagram. Twinning Tees, awesome sponsor, awesome apparel that they put out, whether it's embroidery, screen printing, or anything like that you need. Make sure you check those guys out, or those girls out. Excuse me. We're going to go into our What's Going On segment here, Coach.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah. We're just going to try and we're going to try and cover some of this stuff, man. And we'll start from the top, because there was some news that broke, obviously, a couple hours ago that, hey, listen, whether you like to admit it or not, I don't like to admit it a lot. I don't like to be so drastic as some people are saying online. Like we're still talking about high school players, man.
Kids.
And
kids.
nothing, we're talking about kids.
Yep.
Nothing is groundbreaking. Nothing is earth shattering.
Yeah.
You just hope that these kids are making the best possible decisions that they can with the information that they have at the time, right? And that's what we're hoping that we're doing. Now, when we change the hand a little bit and we talk about the adults, we can be a little bit more in depth, in detail, go a little bit more on what we're feeling, because they can handle it. But that's what we're going to do here. Big news in South Jersey. We touched on it a little bit with Coach Emmel, but we wanted to kind of dive into it a little bit deeper here. Coach Bill Belton, highly successful at Winslow High School, making the jump to St. Augustine. Tell us what you know about this coach and why you think it's significant. And because I know you're like, you got all the not inside info, but you know exactly what the ramifications of this move are with South Jersey football.
Yeah, I think in our conversation with Coach Emmel, he nailed it, right? This is the one parochial school in our region, because of size and classification, that competes against the Big North. So when you think of the Big North, Paramus Catholic, you think about St. Joe's, you think about Don Bosco Prep, you think about Bergen Catholic. These are not just teams that are great in the state. They're teams that are great across the country. Like, there's NFL alumni that went to these high schools. It's great ball. So for Coach to decide for him, he wanted that challenge to go there. It's not an easy decision, I'm sure, for him as an alumni of Winslow and a former Penn State great. He's had a ton of success there, and now is trying this new challenge. And I always admire a ton of coaches. Like, I don't say that just to be flowery towards people or anything, but I admire coaches because I know how much they put into it, how serious they take it, that want a new challenge, right? Like, I use Coach Rob Davis, who I get to coach with now. He was the first coach ever at Barnegat High School. Built the program from a middle school program, coached it through JV till they became a varsity program, and then they were a perennial playoff power. He stepped down for a couple years, and now he drives an hour a day to come teach and coach at EHT, like, because he wanted that challenge. I admire that in people. So for Coach Belton, who, when he was head coach of Winslow, they were playing Montclair, they played IMG, they played Bergen Catholic this past fall. Like, they weren't ducking any smoke. So I think it's really cool now, and I'm interested to see. I do think St. Aug's, who's had success throughout their history with Coach Reardon, when Coach Scuderi was there, most recently with Coach Lancetta, a bunch of great coaches. I do think there's another level they might be able to hit, and I would be fascinated to watch toe-to-toe in a state championship level against a Bergen Catholic or a Don Bosco or whoever it might be that year up north. But there's certainly the talent down here. It's just a little more spread out, I think, but I'm curious to see how it goes.
Yeah, and you touched on it too. You gotta tip your cap to Coach Belton and his Winslow program. Last year and years prior, he didn't duck anybody. So he went out there and he wanted to play the IMGs, and he went out there and took his licks against Bergen Catholic, but it proved like, hey, they're Bergen Catholic for a reason. So I'm curious to see now. They're almost on an even playing field. I don't know. I don't know if they're an even playing field from a financial standpoint. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I'm curious after you give Coach Belton. And that's what I don't want people to do, is like jump to, well, if he doesn't win the championship this year, then it's a fit. Like, dude, this is going to take time. This is a process too, to get things to where he wants them to be, and to find that cohesion within the school and him, and himself as a coach and his coaching staff and the players. Sure, he's going to bring some guys in right away, I think, that he's familiar with, but he's not bringing everybody. I mean, we saw that today. He's not bringing a lot of his guys, but he will be bringing in a lot of guys from all over, South Jersey and I don't know, other areas, I guess. I don't know exactly where he's going to pull from, but this isn't going to be an overnight thing, or maybe, I don't know, maybe for him he wants it to be, but I think time will tell, and you got to give him some leeway and some grace and kind of build that thing the way he wants fit, because obviously the St. Augustine higher ups are putting their trust in him, and he's putting his trust in them, and they're hoping for a long marriage, very successful marriage, and like you said, time will tell. So we're going to stay on kind of this topic a little bit, and as we move forward here, and we're going to have this public versus private debate, okay? And we were talking about it the other day, and I was like, I didn't realize how many states are like either that don't do it the way we do it, and it's like, well, how do you ever crown a true public school state champion? So talk to us about this and what the big debate is here, and this is national topic, man. It's a very hot topic.
Yeah, so most recently, Coach, I think what started this, and then Coach Belton's move from public school to private school kind of got us thinking along this track. But on here, you see the logos of two schools. So St. Francis down in Baltimore has built itself to a national power. And then the Georgia G, that's actually Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas. So you can see there in the tweet that we have posted and had shared, Coach Emil also shared it as well. But 30 different public schools in Nevada all opted to go independent to avoid playing Bishop Gorman. And they've built themselves up to a level where it's not even competition, especially when you talk about, like, we're familiar with this in New Jersey, whether it's schools that pay tuition, whether it's private schools, whether it's choice programs, whether it's not choice programs that people choose to go to, whatever you want to say. But the idea of a non-border school, right? Like, so if I teach at and coach at, the school I might coach at, I get the kids that are from there that come there. Well, if I'm a non-border school, I can go get anybody I want. Well, in like Pennsylvania, 2 years ago, 3 of their state champions were from the Philadelphia Catholic League. It was Roman Catholic, St. Joe's Prep, and Monsignor Bonner. Mm-hmm. And then the only team that beat 2 of those teams was LaSalle, who lost in the state semifinal. So, like, they dominated on the entire state level, a state that's a great level and quality of play in the country in Pennsylvania. So I think that this is a unique perspective. It definitely is a challenge. I am glad that New Jersey has just always kind of been separate, right? And they used to have different group sizes. Now there's basically an A and a B, just enrollment size is where that's split. It's not particularly based on competition. But I do think it's really interesting, this idea. And Coach, we were talking throughout the weekend, the West Jersey Football League formed in part because the Cape Atlantic, where I'm at now, at the time, and looks like it's heading that way again, there was 3 private schools that were, competing for championships on a state level. And certain teams were having to play 3 of them in their division every single year. Yeah. And they couldn't figure out a way to balance that. They were limited to about, I think at the time it was, I don't know, I think it's like 17 teams. And then you have the massive merger with the West Jersey Football League, where I think it's 94 teams we have total right now, 95 teams, where you can disperse that and balance schedules and divisions easier than when you can just, 15 different teams.
Yeah, and it's always tough. Like you said, we had that conversation, and you have non-parochial A and non-parochial B, and now non-parochial B has been dominated by North Jersey. That might change. Who knows? With the news that came out earlier today, who knows what's going to happen next year and beyond. But it's really not fair, man. It's and we see it. Like I said, I use the Bergen Catholic and Winslow game as an example. Like, if you're playing against schools for if you're vying for a state championship game or a state championship, and you're playing against schools that could legally just recruit whoever whoever they want at the drop of a hat. It's like holy smokes, man! Like, what do we have to do to be able to compete with these guys? And I think we finally are going in the right path. I think in the state of New Jersey with our how we do our state championships now and stuff like that. But the one thing that Coach Emmel said last week that I really enjoyed was he was talking about the team that they're playing down in Florida, and that I think it was called a Sunshine Conference or something like that, where hey, all these superintendents have a handshake agreement, or probably more than a handshake, but they got an agreement. Hey, we're not going to take transfers, or we're going to have limits on our transfers, and we're just going to basically branch off and start our own league. And it's got if I'll be honest with you, Coach, I'm not going to hold back. Like if South Jersey keeps going the way that it's going, it's got to be something that a lot of people that do things the right way have to explore, because it's so hard to build anything when you're constantly worried about, where's my kid's going to wind up? My kid's going to be here in 2 weeks or next week or whatever it might be? And that's just the honest truth right now. There's, I don't know. I don't want to go too hard on my high horse, but like there's.
No, Coach, I think you bring up a good point there, and I think too when you talk about those North Jersey parochials, private schools, Coach, they're taken from North Jersey, they're taken from all over the state. They're getting kids from New York City, from New York State, from Connecticut, from Pennsylvania. Like that's not a single, like it's insane. Like it's not the same as what 85% of programs are doing. Coach, I also think this, and I feel really strongly of this. This is probably to get me in trouble from time to time, but I think for the most part, like not on the coaching side of it, because I think most programs are successful because of coaches, and often could be in spite of challenges that might be present in places district to district. But I do think it's really important. Like I know you and I talked about this a little bit, but sports was extremely important in my household growing up. My whole life was home from school, running to 3 different kids' practices for multiple sports. Like it was the driving force and factor. My parents believed in it so much. But I look at it like I moved to a certain area, and because of my experience at that time when I moved there, my brother and sister went to a private school and had a phenomenal experience. So I think schools and, for lack of a better term, administration or communities, however you want to phrase that, right? Like towns should be, it's like everything else. You should be investing to the highest degree of things that your kids care about. That's your theater and art program. That's your cooking program. That's your marching band. That is your sports. And if you don't, I don't know how bad I feel if people are going to move to somewhere or get their kids to somewhere that reflects what they feel is important.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point, and very sensitive topic, because not a lot of people want to hear that when they think that they're on the opposite end of what you're talking about. Maybe they don't value athletics as much as they should, and they're out there, Coach. They are out there, and we've
shame on them, man.
we've both experienced it. But hey, let's just stay on the topic, man, and kind of talk about making a change, and let's talk about, because we've both done it. Let's talk a little bit about what it was like changing jobs, going from one place to another. And you can see here up on the screen, you got 2 different headlines. The one headline says Steve Scanlon steps down as Clearview football coach after 5 seasons. Heads to Alvernia. That was your second go around, I believe, as a college football coach. And then the headline on the left says Gateway football has a new leader as Andrew Daley lands head coaching role. Coach, talk a little bit about what your mindset was, man, because you were a very successful coach at Clearview. You were a South Jersey Coach of the Year. I don't know all your accolades. I'm sure you do. Yeah, I know. But you don't. Here's the thing: you don't just know your accolades. You know accolades from Clearview back in 1987, which is awesome, because you could just reel things off too. But talk about what. Legend. Yeah, there you go. Talk a little bit about what went into your. And I know we talked about this on a former podcast, but talk a little bit about what went into your decision of making that, taking that step down and making that leap into college, and what went into it for you?
Yeah, for me, the piece that I loved building and running a program. I loved it. I still love it. But I knew like what was driving me someday was like, I want to do that at the college level. Like if you could ask me to pick, you can write the script whatever way you want. You want to go to the NFL and be a head coach. You want to be a college head coach. I would want to be a big time college head football coach. Like I think it's the coolest thing, the tradition, the pageantry, the things that are disappearing because today's climate. I love college football, right? I love the Philadelphia Eagles, but I love college football. But for me, I always wanted to be a college head coach. Coach, I was in the running for a Division I position coach job like the July before the season that I stepped down. And I was like terrified over how is this? I can't pass down a Division I job if I get it. And then how do you step down from a program you love in July? Like it's just, and obviously it didn't work out that way. The team made a run. Yeah. We were in the semifinals that year, so it worked out well. But I had not really expected this. My wife is awesome. She loves sports and football as well. And she was like, no, the second you get a chance to go coach college football for real, we're going. Like, that's it. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So an opportunity came. The coach who had recruited me to college got his opportunity to be a head coach and called me walking out from when he got offered the job. And he was like, are you still interested? So a few things had shaken out where, we had an absolutely wonderful teacher and coach at the school who was retiring, and they had like a thank you for him at a faculty meeting. And I was like, I'm going to blink and that's going to be me, and it wouldn't, because he was a way better coach in person than me, but he was a great dude. But it made me think like that. You don't want to look back and say, what if? So I went to my administration immediately. I'm like, guys, this is real. Like I'm going to pursue it. And I think I'm going to take it. So they were aware, but coach, I was like this in between, like I was onboarding for one job. I was still helping run our weight room. Like there's not a clean, easy way to do it. I had only left because I wanted to become a college head coach. And then as I got into college and the challenges that presented versus the challenges that people's family presents and you need at a time, it was a choice that was really easy for me. And it was like, even as I get better, we got 10 moves ahead of us. And instead of being gone for 14 hours on a Saturday, we're going to fly out Thursday night after practice and fly home Saturday. So it was a trade-off that I didn't really want to make. And then luckily my wife was awesome with that too. We moved back to the beach and came down here, and I'm fortunate to be in a great situation, but I didn't want to and didn't foresee leaving where I was at. Like, I loved the program. I was so proud of it. The people were phenomenal. Dude, in my building, we had a former college baseball player, a former college track athlete, and 2 former college football players. They were the administrators. Like, that was the 4 principals, the VPs and the principal. Our AD was a former baseball head coach, Mike Vicente. He was the best AD I've ever been around. Sorry, the rest of you ADs. And coach, if he could, he would – anything that I asked for, he would have gave me if he could, if he was empowered to do so. Like, he would break ground and build an indoor facility if he was able to, just because he was so supportive. So from that aspect, it was really challenging. And I think in general, we should always try to do the thing that maybe scares us or is most unsure, because that's where growth is. Sure. So, I look at it as, I'm technically a failed college football coach, right? I went, it was there a year. We did great things. I liked the path I was on, but ultimately I came back to high school level. And I would advise anybody in a similar situation for any profession to go do that thing that presents the unknown and the challenge, because I couldn't be happier with ultimately how it kind of turned out for me.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. My story is kind of different than that, and I'm gonna make it short because I could talk very ad nauseum about my path and all. But I will say that I kind of when I was first started out, like my first job as a volunteer was in high school, but I was in college early on in my career, and I was at Del Val for a couple years, and then the opportunity came to interview for my first head coaching job at a high school, and that was Cherry Hill East. And I remember interviewing for the job, and they offer me the job, and I say, listen, I appreciate it, but I have this interview. I'm flying out tomorrow morning. I was still coaching at Del Valle at the time. I said, I'm flying out tomorrow morning. They already paid for the flights. I have this interview down in Memphis, Tennessee, for a quarterback coaching job at a Division III school. It's called Rhodes College, which is like the Princeton of Division III, highly academic institution. So I go down I fly. I said, I have to take this interview. Like, I'm very interested in the job, but I just have to take this interview. And I fly down to Rhodes College the next morning, and I interview all day. It was probably maybe a 6 or 7 hour. I can't believe it. Maybe a 7-hour interview, 7-hour interview. And, all through the day, obviously there was breaks for lunch, but they had me get up in front of the quarterbacks, and they brought all the quarterbacks in, and they had me get up and give a lesson. And then we broke down film, and then I was on the whiteboard, and this was for a quarterback coaching job. And, long story short, we hit it off. We had a good session. I go back to the airport that night, and Coach Greco had called me already from the airport. Coach Greco, who I worked for at Del Valle at the time, who's now the head coach at Westchester. And he says, yeah, do you like it? Because this guy just called me and verified, are you going to take it if they offer it to you? Because, I guess he's not calling my head coach 30 minutes after he drops me off unless they're going to offer me the job, right? They're just doing their due diligence. And he was like, so I said, yeah, I liked it. I just need some time to think about it, man. And I flew home, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we just had a conversation. And I had to think on it for 2 days, probably. I slept on it, and I was like, dude, I could either go this route and go to Memphis and bring the whole family with us. And now, like you said, we're moving 10 times before we're making money that's good enough to be able to, support ourselves. Or I could plant my roots here in South Jersey as a head football coach in high school and try and get started that way. And that's the choice I decided to make. And, I was happy with it. I did. When I took the job, it was funny because Coach Greco was like, I'm just going to tell you, it's if you ever want to get back into college, it's going to be tough for whatever reason. Going from college to high school to try and go back to college is tough. And I found that to be 100% true, because I have tried to get college jobs years ago, and it was like I couldn't even get a foot in the door anymore for whatever reason that was. But I had success at Cherry Hill, if you want to call it success. I think I would call it success. Maybe not in the wins and losses, but just from a program standpoint. And then I just got overwhelmed, man. I got burnout. I had some issues with the parents, to be quite honest. And I stepped down, and as soon as I gave up the offensive coordinator position is when I felt like I lost power of the team, because I was just there as a manager. And I gave the OC job to Tyler Drob, who's the head coach there now, and he did a great job. But I'm like, all right, now what do? I'm just here, man. And I stepped down that off season, and I stayed at Cherry Hill East. Like, Mike Burrell was awesome as the athletic director. He made me the assistant athletic director the next year. And I actually think I worked more hours as the assistant AD than I did as the head football coach. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take a year off and try and chill a little bit. And I actually worked more. Yeah, I worked more hours as the assistant athletic director than I did at Cherry Hill. And I took a year off, and I didn't miss it. And then it was the beginning of the second year was starting to roll around, and I'm like, dude, I got to get back into it. And that's when I went down to Gateway and interviewed, and we'll talk on Thursday about some of our interview experiences. So I don't want to give that away yet, but I have a very, very interesting story about our Gateway interview. So make sure you tune in on Thursday to hear that one. But yeah, that's where I'm at, man. And I've been happy with it. Been awesome. Like you said, supportive. They let me I do right by the school. I do right by the kids. And, they put up with all my antics outside of this, like doing podcasts and stuff like that. So it's all good, man. We're in a good spot. But that's kind of been my story there, changing jobs. It's been great. Excuse me. We're going to move on. We got some questions, man. We had a really great response last week, I guess, from our questions, and we left a little bit of meat on the bones. We weren't able to get to everybody, and there has been a couple more too. And I'm going to let you kind of take this first question here. Is what do you guys put together? Mike from Marlton says, what do you guys put together when interviewing for a head coaching position? Coach, like, what do you go in with for let's say a first interview, second interview, whatever it might be?
Yeah, so this is a really cool question. And Coach, I think back to when I first heard about how to prepare for being a head coach. The story was originally from when Andy Reid interviewed with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So it's the late 90s. And at the time, Jeffrey Lurie was new into ownership, the first 3 years or so owning the team. They were firing Ray Rhodes as head coach, but Ray Rhodes had a ton of success in Green Bay as a defensive coordinator and still had a great rapport with Lurie. So kind of on the way out the door, Lurie's newer to all this. He's like, hey, is there anybody I should talk to? Here's how I want to interview. And you got to think, this is 30 years ago now. But today, Coach, if I ask you, hey, who's the next 3 guys that are going to be your big-time hires in college football, you can probably tell me who people will target, right? If you tell me who's going to be the top 5 favorites for the next 5 NFL jobs, as we get to the end of the NFL season, there's a list, like Adam after reports coach interviewing there, but they know those things. In the 90s, we didn't, right? Like the league knew, but it wasn't common knowledge, right? So Andy Reid was the quarterbacks coach at Green Bay, right, under Mike Holmgren. So a great coaching tree that put a ton of NFL coaches in at the time, but he didn't even call plays, right? So he was this quarterback coach who didn't call offense. And at the time, he was the center at BYU when his backup quarterback, former Chicago Bears Super Bowl champion, Jim McMahon, was there. And he's like, what are you going to tell me about quarterback play, right? And he would kind of give him a hard time. But Andy Reid came into the interview, the story goes, and he has a binder. And supposedly he had the next 5 years to the day, to the hour planned. And not only that, he had 10 resumes of people that he wanted to hire and interview for every single coaching position. Like he had he took every opportunity he could to make sure that when he left that interview, even though, he didn't know where it was going to come from, that they were going to be blown away and think that, yes, okay, this guy's just a quarterback coach. He hasn't called an offense yet, but he's extremely prepared to be a head coach. And he won the job. He won the interview. And you see what he did with the Eagles. They were an organization that had not had a ton of success prior to that for a really long time. Buddy Ryan had some good teams, but other than that, they had struggled until way back to the early 70s with Dick Vermeil, into the 80s. And then all of a sudden they were a house on fire, right? They're going to the NFC Championship all the time. They're going to a Super Bowl. And then you see, even when it kind of fell apart in Philadelphia, he reinvents himself in Kansas City, and he's been at the forefront of offensive evolution in the NFL for what, Coach? The last 15, 20 years?
Yeah, he's been awesome, dude. Like he's always very innovative with what he's doing, and some people make fun of him for some of the stuff that he pulls out, but dude, there's never a dull moment with him, that's for sure.
No, and I first heard of that idea of a binder, and I just started initially. For me, it was in a notebook. I used to jot down notes, and it was not organized at the time. It was, I saw this tradition from Holy Cross High School, and I saw this with Coach John Doherty at Paul VI. And when I was a player at Cherry Hill East, they did this thing that was, and it was all these ideas. So then, obviously, as I got older, I got more organized, and basically, what I would start to put together was I would do a mission statement. I would put down a year calendar from all right, your off season through to the end of Thanksgiving-ish, right? Mm-hmm. Every workout, every summer camp, every 7-on, whatever it might be, just spell it all out. I would have my philosophy. I would do expectations for players, coaches, parents, and administration. I would talk about my discipline policy, code of expectation, just all the things that you would need another. I would send them electronically. I would do all the things that I tend to put together for an initial, here's my interview. I would send them as attachments to hope I would qualify for an interview. But if I did, I would bring them with me as well. And I would have them there. I would leave one there so they can look through it if they're interested. If they had a specific question, I could show them an example But that's kind of what I would talk about. I would stay away from the deep X's and O's, maybe give a philosophical overview, but I kind of learned some things in interviews that might come up in a future question as well. But I still have it in an email, and anytime I talk to anybody that's interested in becoming a head coach, I forward on the same email. I'm like, hey, check this out. Take whatever you want, copy it, make it your own. If you have any questions on what something means, shoot me a text and I'll walk you through it. But those are things that I put together. How about you, Coach?
It's very similar to what I have, and my initial packet's probably about 30 pages. You can call it a binder, you can call it a packet, whatever it is. I go in, I print out a 30-page proposal for every person who I'm interviewing with in the room. Like you said, philosophies. I have like an about me page. It tells, where I've been, my resume, my coaching philosophies, my like you said, discipline expectations, my weekly schedule in season, my weekly schedule out of season, my off season lifting plans, very minimal X's and O's. It's actually funny because, I've interviewed for a few high school positions and nobody really cares. The administration does not care about X's and O's. The only administration that I ever interviewed with that was like, okay, let's talk offense, was when I interviewed at Cedar Creek many years ago. And I think it was Coach Parker or whatever. I think he was there, and I think that was the guy who interviewed me. But he was like, you could tell that they wanted a football guy in there, and I think that's when they hired Coach Melody, who's done great, awesome things with them. But they were like the only job that I remember that stood out high school wise that was like football based. And so my packet, like I said, it's about 30 pages, but that's where I go into in-depth fundraising stuff, youth program, like I said, discipline, booster club, whatever it might be. That's all in there. And then I come back, and usually if there's another interview or if there's only one, I'll come back with a slightly smaller, more detail-oriented version of that same packet that's got stuff more directly related to the school. But not for nothing, I've been pretty notorious for being a pretty good interview, for being prepared. And I see the next question. I thought we were talking about it on Thursday, but we're actually going to talk about it in our next question.
Perfect.
How being prepared saved me for one interview. So let's go right into that. Actually, the questions from Keith in Mount Laurel. He says, you guys talk a lot about being prepared for an interview. Are there any that you didn't feel went well, or questions that you recall that caught you off guard? And I got a couple that come to mind. Let me talk about mine first, and then I'll give the floor to you, Coach Move.
Yeah,
but
let's go.
Talking on Gateway and being prepared. I interviewed for the Gateway job after school one day, and I was still working at Cherry Hill, so I flew down to Gateway, and I had just like I'm doing now. It must have been like this time of year, maybe March, right around March, I guess. And I was fighting allergies, man. And I get in this interview, and we're talking. It's me and the athletic director and the principal, and I just have, and I'll admit it to this day, I have a terrible coughing attack. I could not coach. I couldn't stop, dude. It's like going on I would have to say between 5 and 8 minutes. I'm sitting here coughing. I can't talk. My eyes are watering. The principal, and this is the first time meeting these guys, the principal's like giving me like cough drops. I'm like, guys, I'm sorry. I cut the interview. I said, I can't. I said, I understand if you don't want to hire me, but I'm leaving my packets with you. Please review them. If you guys like what I have to say. Let's call me back and let's do this again. So as soon as I get out into the parking lot, one of my buddies who coaches with me now, his son's actually on the team. I text him. I'm like, dude, I blew it. Literally the worst interview of my life. I had a coughing attack. I couldn't talk. I was crying. It was embarrassing, dude. Like literally the worst interview of my life. And he was like, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. Dude, 3 days later, they call me back. Yeah, 3 days later, they call me back like, hey, we want you to meet the school board president, meet with the superintendent. We want to move forward with you if you're going to have it, dude. So I showed up, had a couple, met with them. No coughing attack this time. Beautiful. It was a lot better. And so, as time passes, you can have these conversations. And I asked my athletic director, I'm like, dude, it had to have been the worst. He said, "Oh, it was awful. It was awful." But he was like, "But I knew that you were the guy that we wanted before. Like you were like you could tell just because you had a coughing attack didn't mean that you weren't prepared. And you with your preparation and your notes and your booklet." He was like, "Dude, it was a no brainer, and like we knew we wanted to hire you before you came in and interview." So it just goes to show. And then my other one was I talked to you a little bit about the one in Memphis. That was a marathon, but that was fun because I actually did well. But the other one I interviewed for and I don't care about naming the school because I don't care. I interviewed for the offensive coordinator job at Keystone College a couple years, maybe 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And I don't know. That was a marathon too. And I'm not dude, I wasn't as good as I am with the run game now. I'm still not great with the run game. Like we could talk pass game and stuff all day, and I'm fine with that. But they had me on the board forever, and it was fine. And like I was fine with the pass game. I struggled a little bit with the run concepts, which obviously as an offensive coordinator is a big deal. But then we get to talking, and we sit down, and I prided myself like on being a really solid recruiter, like at Del Val. Like, dude, I could recruit. I still think I could recruit, and I've proven that with with the numbers that I bring in just for my high school. Like, dude, I could recruit. I was good at it. I'll never forget. Greco. I go back to Greco. Greco says, "Dude, I've been going to St. Joe's Hamilton for however many years. I've never gotten one kid. You go your first year and you get 3 kids that come to Del Val." He was like, it's pretty impressive. I'm impressed by that. So we're sitting there talking about recruiting, and the one coach, I'm sitting in there with like the offensive line coach and the head coach, and the offensive line coach goes, he was like, "How would you handle this situation? You're walking around campus with a recruit, and he asks you, 'Coach, what'd you think of my film?' But you haven't watched his film yet. How do you navigate that conversation?" I said, "Well, it's pretty simple. I would never have a recruit on campus that I haven't already vetted and watched their film, and I don't think they liked it. I think it came off as like cocky or maybe overly confident, but it was like, why would you bring a recruit to campus who you've never watched before?" I was like, maybe that's why, and that, dude, that rubbed me the wrong way. I think it rubbed them the wrong way, and it never worked out for whatever reason. But it could have been also the fact that, it also could have been the fact that I wasn't fundamentally sound in the run game. But I think back to that recruiting question a lot, and I'm like, dude, like, you got to be prepared. Like, that's like, and that's let me use this as my little my pedestal here for all these college coaches, and let me say young guys that come through and they come to the school. How often do they come to the school? Division III guys, whoever it might be, and they come through and, "Coach, you got any guys for me?" If I'm like a young, who do you got? I'm like,
what?
You tell me. I got a lot. Tell me who you want to talk to.
Yeah.
Like when I was at Del Val, dude, I never went into a high school without knowing exactly who I wanted to talk to. So I said, "Coach, I know you have this person, this person, this person, and this person. I don't think this person's going to fit in. I would really like to talk to this person and this person."
Yeah.
I never once asked, who can you give to me? Like, dude, I think that's the most like unprepared way of recruiting in the world. I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I'm agreeing. Cosign. I was bothered by that too. So I had 182 schools in my territory, and when we would recruit, we go out in the spring, and then we come out in the winter again. I never went to a school because it was like some of the schools that may come through where I've coached before as a high school coach, they come through because it's their Gloucester County day or it's their Atlantic County day. Like, dude, I'm following the players. Like, if there's a dude down at your school, like I remember this. There was 2 players down at Lower Cape May. Coach Bailey was down there as head coach. One of them went to TCNJ. One of them went to Carnegie Mellon. Dude, there was no way to fit Lower Cape May Regional into wherever you were going. Like, I had to cut off of me. I went from Glassboro. I went to 3 schools before that. I'm like, I have to run down there because I'm not going to get to these players without it, and they can help us win some games. So, like, I always followed. I saw film before I went there, and then I talked to the head coach. I'm like, "Hey, Coach Daley, I like these 3 guys. Does so-and-so have a committable offer, or do you think he's going to fall through? And is there anybody I'm missing?" That's what I would say. Yeah. And luckily South Jersey Football Mafia, they would let me know, lucky to be a made guy. They would tell me, "Yeah, man, he's a good fit. No, you don't want him. Yes, this guy's great. Oh, and by the way, this kid was hurt, but he's going to be awesome, and we think he's a college football player." That was it. I took their word. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. Yeah.
so that was something I was focused on.
I mean,
Coach, you got another one for your interviews? Or
nah, I don't have another one. I just
Well,
want it to be like young coaches that come through. Please just have a plan, man.
So two things. If you are a young high school coach and you are interested in what Coach Daley and I are talking about, putting things together, shoot us a text, shoot us an email, send us a message on Twitter or Instagram. Whatever we can provide to help you on your journey, man, let us know. But Coach, a couple things stand out to me. So I had, I don't know about you, but especially I feel like offensively, I look back at years in the past and I just want to like rip my hair out of what I did such a bad job of offensively. Like, because you feel like you're evolving and you're learning. I could have used this player here. So you're always self-evaluating. Well, I had one interview with the school. I won't say who, but it's a South Jersey school. And they asked me a question, and I think they wanted to know, like, hey, was there a play that was an aha moment for you? And dude, did you ever see Shawshank Redemption?
No, I
all right. So there's a character, Red. He's away for life, and every time he goes up for parole, he says, "I'm sure. I'm sorry. I'm real." You know, like says what he thinks they want him to hear, and they deny him. Right. Then he goes up one time, and he like goes scorched earth. He's like, you make up this term as if it's going to erase the crime that I've done just so you can have a little job and stamp denied on your paper. Right. And that gets him approved for parole. Right. So they were looking for something like that. And I gave an answer like Red. I'm like, you guys are asking me about plays. I'm going to tell you a story. And I told a story about a player who, we'll just say did something wrong before their graduation and got themselves in trouble, and they're okay now in their life. And the person, they're okay. But I'm like, that kid messed up an opportunity in their life. I think about that and how my program could have supported that player better and maybe have helped develop or train him in a way where he doesn't make that mistake, more than I think about the double pass that was dropped in the end zone that would have won a sectional championship at Clearview, and I would have lit up a Cuban cigar on the 50-yard line. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been cool, but that is way more. Coach, when I said that, 3 jaws dropped, dead silence on the interview, and like they were impressed, but they were not expecting me to say that.
Yeah, for sure.
I had one awesome. at EHT, and they asked like what, and I get it. They were trying to see like my style of coaching and teaching. But they're like, hey, what's a skill that you would need that you could teach one of us? I'm like, what? So for whatever reason, like I made someone get up and I like had them going through a drill where they were skip pulling. And I'm like dropping pens as cones and having them go around and teaching and like encouraging them. Everybody at the tables, there's like 15 people in there all laughing and enjoying it. And then I was like, I should have walked them through like a one-word code offensive package play. Like that would have blown their mind. But to your point, anyone that's interviewing, besides, like you said, Cedar Creek, it's funny you say that. I know someone else interviewed for Cedar Creek job when that opened, and they said the same thing. They put them on the board defensively. But at the high school level especially, they're not going to know more football than you. Not only that, they're not going to know half as much football as you. So
did we lose Coach Move?
Don't fight organization. There we go. Sorry,
he's back. You gotta get some. Yeah, you gotta get some. You gotta get some minions in there and get the Wi-Fi going or some Ethernet cables or something.
Yeah, my apologies.
That garage is struggling today, babe.
So I was interviewing at a school. I was at the time going to be a head assistant coach there, and they were interviewing me for a day job, right? So I go through for a teaching job interview. The first 8 questions are to script, just like expected. Mm-hmm. They get to this next part, Coach. They start asking content-specific stuff. Each question is like 8 different parts. So I'm answering it to the best of my ability. Then I say, can you repeat the next part after that? I try to do a little bit more, right? And then I finally get to this question where they ask me something about the Civil War. And a half hour before that, I taught the same battle on the same lesson that day. I'm like, these guys have no choice. Like, I'm crushing this. So then I stop for a second. I'm like, do you guys mean from the North perspective or the South? This dude, like, his eyebrows jump up. He looks at the guy in the room, looks at me, looks down and reads again word for word. And I was like, wait a minute. They don't have a clue of anything that I've said the last hour
Oh my
related to
God.
social studies. Coach, I wish I would have done this, but I was this close to being like, good luck, guys. You're going to need it, and walking
Oh
out.
my
But
God, dude.
I
That's
will say
crazy.
this, Coach. I have a very big winning record against that school as a head coach.
We'll keep it. I don't know. I don't know if the audio cut out when you name that school or if you
No, I
refuse to
did
name
not.
that school. It probably was better for it though. But hey, we'll keep it there. We're gonna skip the next question. We'll save that for next time because we're running short on time here. We're up to our weekly awards, man. That was some good stuff. And like Coach said, if you guys have any questions, man, we're here to help. I got no problem sharing my coaching proposal for a small fee of $19.99. No, I'm just kidding, man. If you need anything, email us, dailymovepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you guys want to do. Make sure on that note, make sure you're liking, subscribing, sharing all of our stuff. That way we can keep providing all this awesome content. We got the show tonight. Obviously, this will drop tomorrow. Wednesday or Thursday, we got our No Huddle segment, and Friday we have our South Jersey Spotlight where we will talk about the Freedom and Memorial Division.
I think
Freedom and Independence, right? Yeah, Memorial will be next week. But we're going to move on to our weekly awards here, and first up is going to be the Coach of the Week, Coach Dom Tomeo. Some people pronounce it Tomeo, but I think it's Tomeo. The Coach Dom Tomeo from Triton Regional High School. Coach put out a tweet, and this is not necessarily new, but Coach finally put out a tweet and made it official this week that he was stepping down as the head coach of the Triton Regional Mustangs, his alma mater. Coach took over that program back in 2015 and grew the program by leaps and bounds, including divisional titles, playoff appearances, and multiple student athletes playing at the next level. Triton Athletics put out a tweet that says, "Thank you, Coach Tomeo, for everything you've poured into our football program. Your dedication and passion make a lasting impact on every player who's come through. Wishing you all nothing but great things in your next chapter," which leads me to believe that, and even in his tweet, he said it's not goodbye, it's see you later. So there might be something down the road for Coach Tomeo, but Coach Tomeo, an awesome guy. And let me share a quick story real quick, and I'll let you, if you got anything to say about Coach here.
Definitely.
Coach, we played Triton at Cherry Hill East, and we didn't have lights at the time, so we played all of our games at 11 a.m. Dude, we were playing them in like October, I think, and Coach Tomeo texted me in like August or July, and he was like, "Yo, can we change the time to our game from 11 a.m. to like I think it was 10. I don't think it was 10:30 or 10 o'clock. We had to move it up." He was like, "I'm flying out to Vegas for the Eagles game," and he was going to the Eagles game the next day.
That's awesome.
So Coach is a big time Eagles fan. So I said, "Yeah, no problem." We moved up the game. He still wound up coming over to our place, kicking our butt, and then heading over to Vegas to check out the Eagles. So I always share that story. I thought it was a pretty fun one too. So
yeah, Coach, I think he's done a phenomenal job as a coach. We played against him. We lost to him the last 2 years where I'm at coaching now. And I just think they did a masterful job of putting their kids in position to be successful. They played extremely physical. They developed their schemes in a way that complements what they do and build around their players' skill set. Awesome job. Awesome guy. Great coach. It's definitely a loss for South Jersey, but I had texted him a little bit. And I think he'll be around sooner than people realize, but I know Coach is going to continue to be a great person, great supporter of the program, continue to help his own kids as well. So just the best of luck to Coach as well. Thank you, Coach.
Awesome. Moving on to Player of the Week, and this was your pick here. And we got, we talked about LeBron on this podcast before, but Player of the Week.
Oh, sorry, Coach. I snuck this one in on you too.
Oh, you snuck one in on me.
Yeah, just a shout out to Coach Finney, man. New head coach. He's the offense coordinator. Also an alumni, which, Coach, I think that's really cool when an alum is a head coach of their program. I think that's an extra special bond. And Coach has done a great job with their offense, and best of luck to you in the future, Coach.
For sure. Good luck, Coach. Moving on to Player of the Week here. Go ahead.
Dude, 41. We're never going to see this in sports again. Never. Like the decades worth of dominance. I'm not a Lakers fan, right? I'm a Philadelphia fan, obviously, but the Lakers win game 1 of their series against Houston. They're playing again right now as we record. LeBron goes out. He has like 10 assists in the first half, 19 points, 8 rebounds, 13 assists for the game, 50% from the field, 50% from 3, 2 steals, 1 block, and they win. Like, I know LeBron is a very people either love him or hate him. I don't know how people can't appreciate what this dude has done for sports, for the game. He's playing in a playoff game with his son on the court. Like, I mean, Ken Griffey Jr. and Sr., like that's a very limited club of people who've been able to do that. So just thought it was well timed for player of the week for him, and quite a win in a game for them, but go Sixers.
Yeah, congrats to LeBron, and maybe a repost will be in the cards. I wouldn't be opposed to that, but hey, man, that's an hour. That's going to wrap up our show here on Tuesday night. As always, we appreciate you joining us. Join us Thursday for our No Huddle segment and Friday for our South Jersey Spotlight. And then again, next Monday, we have our Coach's Corner. We'll be joined by Coach Mike Isgrove from Westchester University, South Jersey legend in his own right, will be joining us on the Coach's Corner. So really excited about that. As always, man, we appreciate you. If you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, share Daily Move Pod on all social medias. Coach Move, tell them what we got.
Let's find a way to win.
Let's find a way to win. Maybe we appreciate you guys. Take care. We'll see you next time.